think we're good. I think we're live. So, what's up, guys? This is Nick from P2W Fantasy, joined by two solid guests here. I have our contributor for the brand at Anthony P2W. Anthony, what is up, man?
How's it going? It's going good.
Yeah, I had another guest come on, and I was joking around with Jacob about this, but his name was also Anthony. He had some connectivity issues, so I was going through my list of Anthonys, and I forgot that we have one that contributes to the brand and even has a PW attached to his name. So that was an easy call up. But yeah, and even more so, I have Jacob here with us. Jacob is a guy that I tend to share his content out. He shares a lot of our stuff, which I appreciate. We have a good relationship. Just to go on a little tangent here, Jacob talks Broncos for Primetime Sports Talk. He's involved with NewLifeFantasy.com and also on Twitter, the Fantasy Six Pack, and also part of the FSWA, Fantasy Sports Writers Association. Jacob, thanks for joining us, man.
Oh my goodness, I'm blessed to be here with you, gentlemen. I mean, thank you so much for having me on. Like you said, I enjoy all of your guys' content. I love it. I think it's fire. So, I mean, it was a matter of time before I got to join you here.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that. I know we've messaged each other a few times trying to work something out, and today's a good day for that. Just real quick, if you want to go through what's some of the things you got going on right now, maybe some projects you're working on, content that you're working through, if you want to just lay some of that out for those listening.
Yeah. So currently I'm working on a fantasy baseball article, stock up, stock down article for the Fantasy Six Pack. So be on the lookout for that on Thursday.
All right.
I also do the Mile High Salute podcast. Like you said, I'm a Broncos expert for Primetime Sports Talk. So we bust out a podcast just doing like position battles, doing, like what ifs, doing, like we're trying to get some interviews with some Broncos, but right now it's just like all about the position battles and stuff like that right now. And other than that, fantasy baseball, fantasy football as well. I'm working on a Clyde Edwards-Helaire article for Primetime Sports Talk. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I actually, and Anthony can contest to this, but I started up a IDP dynasty startup, offense and defense. And it was the first time that I had a share of Jerry Jeudy, and you were probably the first person I thought of. I know we've, went back and forth about our love for that man. So that was my good share, and I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah.
Love it, man. I consider Jerry Jeudy the next Antonio Brown, but don't tell anyone.
Hey, you can tell the world, because I think me and Anthony will be right there with you, because he was our wide receiver one before the draft and right now.
100%.
So what we got going on today, we're just talking some depth chart questions that I thought of, and maybe how we see some production related to these questions. So not everything going into the season's like black and white as far as, this guy is going to be here on the depth chart and he's going to be the number one or number two targeted guy, that sort of thing. So I thought it'd be interesting to look at some of these questions and get your guys' thoughts on on where some guys stand and how they're going to be productive this season. So let's kick it off. Let's kick it off. Right. So first one I got here, how are we viewing the Raiders receiving core with the new additions to the team? So Nelson Agholor, not the sexiest of names, but he's added to the core. They drafted 3 rookies. Obviously, Henry Ruggs, first round, pick 12. Then Lynn Bowden, and then Brian Edwards went 16 and 17 in the 3rd round. So they went back to back with those 2 guys. So we know that last year, Darren Waller ate up 117 targets. He was the most targeted guy on the team. He was the clear-cut go-to man. Hunter Renfrow, 71 targets in the games that he played for 49 receptions. Tyrell Williams, 64 targets, 42 receptions, and he did miss some time. And then we look over to the flip side of, Agholor stepped in for a banged-up core from the Eagles, and he had 68 targets himself. So I guess the big question here is, how do we view the Raiders like pecking order as far as maybe target shares, receptions, and all that great stuff for 2020 goes? And I'll let you start us off, Jacob, on your thoughts on that.
Sure, man. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think it was obvious that the Raiders' primary focus in the draft was to keep up with the Chiefs, right? I mean, but as long as Derek Carr is steering the ship, I don't think there's any way he can support all these skill positions, at least for this year, for sure. He's a streaming option whenever he does face the Chiefs because he's going to get a lot of volume. He's going to have to throw as much as he possibly can. But I don't trust Carr to get the ball to all these guys. Now, there are a few that I do trust. I do believe that, Waller's going to get his. And I do believe that Hunter Renfrow is a good PPR option. As far as, like a late round, I'm going to go for this guy. He has like some upside. He has some chemistry with Carr, which is going to work in his favor just because of all these other rookies that they took. Like, I think he named like six wide receivers they took in the draft, plus via free agency.
Mm-hmm.
A guy that not many people are talking about is Tyrell Williams, who already has a rapport with Carr, and he's a veteran. I think he benefits early on, at least, until all the rookies pick up the offensive game plan and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think it was such a mistake for the Raiders to draft Ruggs in front of Judy and Lamb. I think they really just love going for those speed guys, a la Darius Hayward Bay back in the day. It's just they love taking those speed guys. So I think that Gruden's going to force feed Ruggs just as much as he can, just to prove that he didn't make that mistake. So he's definitely worth a late round flyer there, Henry Ruggs. But other than that, I don't really trust anyone other than Waller and Jacobs, to be honest. I'm kind of staying away from this team.
Yeah, and rightfully so with so many question marks going in. Anthony, what are your thoughts about the receiving core going into 2020 for the Raiders?
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page as you, Jacob, with everything. I was shocked that they draft. I mean, me and Nick, we were watching the draft together. We were shocked.
I know.
Ruggs was taken before all those other big name receivers.
Right.
It's crazy to me, but looking at it situation wise, I think he's gonna have a decent target share for them. I think he might have been my wide receiver 4 or 5 going in before the draft, and now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, just based on volume, he might be flirting with my number 2 or 3, just because of I think they're gonna have target share available for him. In terms of these other rookies, Brian Edwards, Lynn Bowden, I'm not expecting too much from them personally. They still have Renfrow there, who I think is definitely going to be involved in the offense. Tyrell Williams can be involved. So I don't know about how much these other two are going to be involved. Darren Waller is going to be a vocal point for them again this year. The other point that you made that I actually liked was that Derek Carr take you had. I'm not very high on Derek Carr. I don't see him as an elite quarterback. So even if some of these wide receivers are valuable, are dangerous, how much are they going to be able to do with Derek Carr as their quarterback? So that's my thing with the Raiders right now. And like you said, going against the Chiefs, maybe they thought they were getting Tyreek Hill 2.0 with Ruggs or something. But expectations, I'm expecting Ruggs to have a decent season based on target share. Waller, decent season, and then the third guy, I'm thinking Renfrow or Tyrell Williams. But these other rookies, I don't see anything big for 2020.
And I forgot to warn you guys, we're going to have a bunch of comments. So if I interrupt you guys, to throw it down. Got the boys _22, great guy and Kevin right there. A Broncos fan staying away from Raiders players. No way. I think he's being sarcastic, if I had to guess. But yeah, Kevin.
Hey, all of my opinions are completely unbiased. I promise. Maybe a little bit of hatred there, but honestly, I mean,
unbiased, maybe a little,
maybe a little biased, but I just don't see Carr being able to keep all these skill position guys afloat in fantasy. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think I think it might give Carr a little bit of a boost just because like last year I wrote down 70%, I think completion percentage at times. And, but he was also third with drops. So like maybe having some more guys that he can throw and have an option for might help him. I don't think he's going to be a guy you're rushing and grab as far as your quarterback goes, but you guys hit a lot of the pointers there. Ruggs is concerning to me just because you look at his senior year in college, supposed to be, or your last year in college, supposed to be the year you ball out. 40 catches for 746 yards. And I know we mentioned Judy before, but Judy's got 77 catches on the other hand. So, I think I struggle to view him as a guy that's going to get a solid 10 targets a game because he's not really used to that. I think with Ruggs, I think the upside is going to be huge. He reminds me of a guy like this past season with not Antonio Brown, AJ Brown. Safe route.
Right.
AJ Brown, because AJ Brown might have had like 4 targets in a game, but because of that like burst of speed and explosiveness, he might give you a lot of points. So I think that might be the case for Ruggs, where it might be a handful of targets with the upside of having some big plays. But yeah, Tyrell Williams, interesting enough, his first 5 games last year, I think one of them was kind of spread out from the rest. He had a touchdown every single game in those 5 games. So he does have a connection with Carr. We love touchdowns in fantasy. Renfro had a pretty decent season too. A lot of guys are high on Bryan Edwards, the rookie coming in. Him and Ruggs are very different. Bryan Edwards is a big receiver. He's a smooth, pretty good route runner in comparison to Ruggs, who a little bit smaller stature, super explosive, super fast. So they might complement each other later. But I think with the season, not having the preseason games and the typical training camps, I think we're going to have just a mixture of like beginning of the year, it's going to be very Tyrell, Renfro, super Waller heavy. And then these rookies kind of ease in with maybe Ruggs being the only guy that might float back and forth. But yeah, like you guys are saying, I don't know how comfortable enough I am to draft a lot of these guys because I think that there might be a change of guard like a couple games into the season. So yeah, so many question marks with the Raiders core. I think we all agreed that Darren Waller is still going to eat. We may see him have not 117 targets like he did last year just because there's more options, but I think he'll be like the safe, like we'll make sure he gets his every game. So good points all around. And anything else for the Raiders, guys?
Interestingly, actually, so once Renfro came onto the scene late last season, he was eating into Waller's touches, and vice versa. Like they were battling for touches. Like Waller, he didn't fall off, but his production went a little bit downhill once Carr was leaning on Renfro more. So that's definitely something to look for early in the season. Yeah,
that's a great point there. Anything else, Anthony?
No, going off of that, I mean, I liked Renfro since college. I think he's a good route runner. He played at a high level in college. He was productive. I think he's a good option that's getting slept on a little bit just because of all these rookies. But if you can grab him later in the draft, I think he's somebody that could be definitely a sleeper and give you some good production.
Agreed.
Especially early on, I'll say. I'll agree with the early on aspect. I'm not sure about midway to the end of the season, but I'll agree early on. Let's move forward. We'll talk some tight ends now. Last year, the Vikings, Irv Smith Jr. and Kyle Rudolph. Rudolph ended up being a little bit better of the option in fantasy, but if we look at the numbers, they went hand in hand and split on almost everything. So Kyle Rudolph, 48 targets in comparison to Irv Smith Jr. with 47. And you go to receptions, Kyle Rudolph, 39. Irv Smith Jr., 36. Similar yards, both in the 300 range. The big separating factor, 6 touchdowns for Rudolph to the 2 touchdowns for Irv Smith Jr. So with Irv Smith being a 22-year-old tight end, obviously great talent there. Dynamics change for their team. They draft Justin Jefferson. Diggs leaves behind 94 targets, which is huge for them. What do we see as far as the tight ends go for the Vikings? Do we see a clear-cut separation where there's a for sure tight end 1 on the team and then a guy, getting what's left? Is it going to be a split show again like it was this past year? Curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Anthony, we could start with you on this one. What do you think when it comes to Irv Smith versus Kyle Rudolph 2020?
Yeah, this one, I mean, in a perfect world, I would love to say Irv Smith's taken over that role. I think he's their guy as far as who's their tight end. But being that Kyle Rudolph is still on the team, I can't see there being like a major separation between the two. I think Irv Smith definitely has the talent. I loved him at Alabama. I thought he was a great tight end there, and it was a steal for the Vikings when they took him. But Kyle Rudolph, he's that guy that, like, nobody really wants him on their fantasy team that much, but he's a guy that, like, isn't going to go away. I think that he's going to be Irv Smith's worst enemy, all his owners' worst enemy, just because he's going to be that guy that's going to steal touchdowns, and he's going to be that guy that's going to steal targets. I definitely think Irv Smith's a more talented guy in terms of that, in terms of being their tight end, but I don't know that they're going to truly hand over the keys to him while Rudolph's still on the team. So in my opinion, I think Irv Smith takes another step forward, definitely gets more involved, but I don't think it's going to be a huge difference between him and Rudolph there. That's just my personal opinion. I think Rudolph's going to be a guy that's making a lot of Irv Smith owners mad this year just because he's going to steal some touchdowns.
All right. So, Jacob, do you agree or disagree, or where are you at in terms of Irv Smith and Kyle Rudolph?
So I am on the spectrum. I'm going to disagree with you, Anthony, respectfully.
No, you don't have to do that, man.
All right. I disrespectfully disagree. No, I'm just kidding.
That's what the show needs. That's what the show needs. Thank you.
Okay. Nice. I mean, so all those points were solid. You know, like he's 6'6". He's a monster. So I do see him stealing touchdowns, but it's crazy that a rookie tight end split touches with Rudolph. You know, like it's hard enough for rookie tight ends to get acclimated to the league. It usually takes like 2 to 3 years for them to make like a real impact. Yet he split touches with a dude who's been in the league for like 9 years or so. Yeah. So I mean, that is super telling to how the Vikings view Irv Smith. So I personally think it's Irv Smith's job to lose, but it probably won't happen until like a few games into the season. I think that with Diggs out, like you said, Nick, I think like Cousins needs that reliable second to third option behind Thielen, and Irv Smith already has that chemistry advantage over rookie Justin Jefferson. So, I also love that Irv Smith is considerably faster than Rudolph with, a 4.63 40 versus Rudolph. He had a 4.78 40, and that was 9 years ago, at his pro day. So who knows if he is still that same speed. So I personally like Irv Smith as one of the late round tight ends that I wouldn't mind taking a shot on just to see if he develops into a tight end one. And hopefully the Vikings start to phase Rudolph out.
Yeah. We shall see soon enough, but I am more so with you, Jacob. I think Irv Smith Jr. has every opportunity to be a major breakout. We've seen these young tight ends in the past, like you've also noted. Like, even look at a guy like Hawkinson. I'm sure he might take a year into the league. He just did to get more and more involved. But I think with the Diggs leaving the 94 targets on the table, I think, in a perfect world for Justin Jefferson drafters, I think they think, he's going to steal all those. But I think the target share and the volume is there for Irv Smith to separate himself from Rudolph in both of those aspects. The only concerning thing I would have would be Rudolph continuing to knife the touchdowns. So give me a larger target share, give me more receptions, give me a burst in yards, because he does, like you said, have some burners on him for a tight end. Yeah. But I think that the touchdowns are going to be what's lacking, just because Rudolph being a pretty solid go-to in the red zone. So yeah, I'm full blast. I try to get Irv Smith in most of the leagues I draft in, or traded for him in the offseason. I think he could be a stud. Solid route running, good hands. He showed all this right away, and I think if you are able to split with a veteran, the next year should be yours, like you said, to lose. And
Right.
and if he regresses, I think that must be a on him sort of thing out of
Right.
him being kept for the year. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Mhm.
Anything else for these two guys going into 2020, guys?
No. I'm definitely taking a stab late, but that's all I got.
Yep.
All right. So let's move on to the Giants, New York Giants. So shout out to friend Five Wide Football, Dan over there, massive Giants fan. But hypothetically, so you like to say this because you want every person to come into the year healthy and stay healthy for a full season. But hypothetically, with everyone healthy on the Giants, describe your order for target share between the wide receivers, Shepard, Slayton, and Tate. So we know last year, Danny Dimes kind of balled out at times. We've seen great things from him. The thing he had to deal with is his tight end, Evan Ingram being banged up, and also his wide receiver core missing games here and there. He didn't have a solid group for the entire season at all, as far as the wide receivers and his tight end all together. So let's say 2020, everyone's good to go, everyone's healthy. For those three wide receivers, obviously very different guys. Golden Tate's more of a slot guy. Slayton could be a great downfield threat. Shepard's all over the place. Where do you guys see them lining up in terms of target share? And we can start with you, Jacob, on this.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head about Darius Slayton. He is the only guy on that team who can stretch the field, because all they have is a bunch of slot guys. It feels like with Tate and Shepard and Ingram. I think I am a huge believer in Slayton this season. I think he has the potential to produce wide receiver 2 numbers. I really liked what I saw out of him towards the end of last season. I think, he's hardly a sleeper given his ADP is like just above 100. But I do believe that he has the physical tools, the chemistry with Danny Dimes, and the opportunity to produce consistent wide receiver 2 numbers. I'm personally not a huge fan of Shepard, given that he had 2 concussions in one season. I believe, one more hit, he's going to be out for 6 games or more. Like he kind of has that Brandon Cooks feel, to where he's extremely sensitive to those hits, and every hit he takes, I'm going to be like, like holding my breath, hoping that he's okay and hoping that his career's not over. So I can't draft that kind of risk, at least like a valuable pick. So I'm going to put Shepard third on my list. And so first is Slayton, and then second is Tate. I do like Tate, in a PPR league. Slayton is definitely the guy to own, and I believe he'll get somewhere between like 100 to 110 targets this season. Behind Slayton, I think Tate will have about 80 to 90 targets, and Shepard, if he stays healthy, huge if, he'll probably get around 75 to 80 targets. So I think it's definitely between those three, and Ingram's going to get his, I'm sure. But Slayton here is the guy is the guy to own here in New York.
I know that's something Anthony likes to hear, because I know you invested in Slayton in your leagues. Beyond that, are you on board with Slayton being their number one targeted guy for the year? If so, who do you have at 2 and 3, or where's your order at?
Yeah, so I'm a big Slayton believer.
Nice.
I've got him in almost every league I have, I want to say. But in terms of target share, I'm completely on the same page with you about Shepard. I think Shepard had every opportunity to take like a hold of that wide receiver 1 spot last year. There's a few weeks where like he was their only option, and he didn't even stand out. So he's definitely last on my list. I'm done with Shepard. I don't want anything to do with him. I don't think he's going to have a huge target share. I don't think he's going to get a lot of touchdowns. I think he's just going to be maybe a weekly filler if you got some guys on a bye week.
Right.
Slayton is definitely the guy to own. I think he's going to get the the most touchdowns out of the group. I think he's going to have the biggest plays out of the group. My thought process behind this is I think Golden Tate might be their leader in receptions this year.
Okay.
Just because, I mean, if he's fully healthy, Golden Tate's a good receiver. He's been in the league a long time. And what he does is he gets yards. That's what he does. He's not going to get you a lot of touchdowns. He's not going to get you any huge, big plays like Slayton might get you. But he's going to get you maybe 6, 7, 8 targets, catches a game, I think. I think he's going to be a fringe, like, flex option this year. But he might lead in targets, in my opinion, just because he's a big reception guy. That's what he does. Slayton, I think, is going to get more total yards. I think he's going to get more touchdowns. I think he's the guy you definitely want. But I could see Golden Tate being sneakily their target leader this year, just based on the fact that he's running out of the slot and might just see a lot of opportunity there. Evan Ingram, I think, is going to be a big part of their offense this year if he could stay healthy. So being healthy is the biggest.
Right.
Yeah, being healthy is the biggest factor for this offense. But definitely with you, Slayton's the guy to own. I just think that Golden Tate might out target him this year. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, I'm going to be the only Shepherd guy out of the three.
Here we go.
Yeah, I was hearing you guys go on, make great points. I'm looking at my notes, making sure I can even back up Shepherd here. I think I can. But
Let's do it.
I think like you said, Jacob, Slayton is going to be their downfield guy. In fantasy, when you connect with a downfield guy, a lot of times it's touchdowns or it's big yard plays. So that's a great thing to have for him as a fantasy owner. With Shepherd, though, he never had a game this past season with 6 or under 6 targets. Out of the 10 games he did play, and again, that's not a great number of games to play if you have them, but out of the 10 games he did play, 6 out of those 10 he had 9 or more targets. So I think the connection's there with Danny Dimes. I think that they want him to be involved. Mm-hmm. Do I also cringe when I see him, simply be tackled? Of course. Right. I do agree with that. But I think Slayton, we've seen him explode a little bit for a few games there. I do think that he is going to be very important next season, but I also think that he was a major beneficiary of guys being injured. I don't think that's the only reason, because you got to make those plays. You got to catch the ball down the field. You got to score the touchdowns. But with Shepherd being out, with Ingram being out, I think that allowed Slayton to grab a larger target share and be a bigger part of that offense than I think they intended him to be. Shepherd, 2 seasons with 8 targets in the 80s, 2 seasons with targets in the 100s. I know we can't, look in the past to predict the future, but I like that he's consistently been a guy that, even with Odell Beckham Jr. being there, got a decent target share. So I think with seeing all those games where he was getting 9 targets, 11, 14, those high numbers with those other guys on the roster, and then seeing him out and other guys kind of explode, I'm going to go with Sterling Shepherd being the most targeted guy in 2020. I think that Slayton will have the most yards. I think he's going to have the most big plays. I think Golden Tate's going to be a nice cushion over the middle of the field for Danny Dimes. So all 3 of these guys, I think, are good assets to have in fantasy. Even Golden Tate, who I think, again, we mentioned it briefly, but is very slept on and undervalued for what he can do for a team. So give me Sterling Shepherd and let me be the oddball out here with you 3. Or us 3.
I like that fire take, dude. I also like the point that you made that all 3 can be useful in fantasy, because let's face it, this Giants defense is awful. So Danny Dimes could have anywhere between 30 to 40 passes a game, and those targets got to go somewhere other than Barkley. It's going to go to Slayton, like you guys said. It's going to go to Tate. It's going to go to Shepherd. It's going to go to Ingram. Like, I think that all these guys realistically have a shot at being useful for your fantasy team. So, I like that you said that Shepherd's going to be the highest target dude. I really hope you're right, because I wouldn't mind taking a stab at him late, and just because I was high on him last year, and he kind of screwed over my team. So it's like, fool me once, So I'm just like, I'm kind of like not in that forgiving state right now.
He's on your list right now. He's on your list.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. He joins that Devonta Freeman list that I will never draft.
Well, he's still floating out there somewhere. So hopefully he gets picked up sometime. Maybe not, but might have to do your list. The NFL owners might have your list on hand. But I think we're on the same page with these three guys actually being pretty fantasy relevant. Can't say that about a lot of teams. We've seen in the past guys like, you look at the Rams and you see we had Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Brandon Cooks all pretty fantasy relevant at the same time. So I don't think that, we could say that these three are equivalent to those guys were, but it's still a possibility. So let's look at the Patriots. This came, or I wrote this one down before the injury. I read the injury report on Sony Michel. Obviously, we knew he had the foot surgery to relieve some discomfort, but now he's on the PUP or the PUP, physically unable to perform list. Cam Newton comes to New England. That changes the dynamics for the team. I personally, just to go on a little tangent here, I personally thought that with Stidham being at quarterback before Newton, I thought it might be an uncomfortable quarterback, might run the ball more. The defense is very good, can keep them in games, and they can manage those games by running a little bit more than they're used to. But now, even on the defensive side, you got all these guys opting out. They had a couple guys like Hightower and Chung, who are massive, portions of their defense opting out. So there's a lot of dynamics changing for the Patriots, which brings the question, Cam's there now. What does the outlook look like for the New England backfield running backs? So obviously you go down the list. You got Sony Michel and James White, who were the classic, 1-2 punch, but you got a young guy in Damian Harris. Rex Burkhead is annoyed Sony Michel only for 2 years now. You got him. And they just tend to throw in, guys here and there. So what are we thinking about this backfield? I guess in terms of who's going to be successful, do you want to take a chance on any of these guys? Just go on whatever sort of rant you want about New England here. We could start with you, Jacob.
Yeah, so like you said, man, Michel's injury is extremely – it's making me uncomfortable to the point where I see Damian Harris, like you said, as like a bona fide sleeper, at least on my list here, because even when Sony was healthy, or none of this was coming out about his about being on the PUP list, I thought that they could form like a 1-2 punch with White coming in on third downs, being like that third down back. I thought that they were going to let Harris do a lot more running this year just because of the draft capital that they spent on him in the third round, I believe. So they view him as like a versatile back who can do it all. So I'm definitely taking my shot on Damian Harris here. And to be honest, he's really the only Patriots running back that I'm willing to spend any sort of draft capital on. Unless I'm in a PPR league, I'm going with James White just in case Cam Newton loves him. So the first thoughts when Cam Newton went to New England for me was Julian Edelman is now, he's now relevant. He's going back just because I feel like he's going to get a bunch of targets from Cam Newton. And I also like N'Keal Harry to be like his Kelvin Benjamin type guy because he's a huge target for Cam. So yeah, I mean, as far as the backfield goes, I'm staying away from Sony Michel. I'm drafting White in deep PPR leagues. I'm taking a stab on Damian Harris in every league, probably like a late flyer, like one of the last few rounds for sure.
Yeah. All right. Damian Harris is who Jacob likes in that backfield. Anthony, what do you think of the backfield in New England? 2020.
Well, let me just start by saying that I love Rex Burkhead.
Actually, a frequent listener to this podcast, so that he'll probably hear that.
I always told Nick, because he always used to have Sony Michel. I used to say, Rex Burkhead's going to steal some touches, and that's what he does. So
that's not to cut you off. Not to cut you off, but you can, and I'm not saying anything negative, you can just tell. You see the Patriots in the red zone sometimes, and you can tell if it's Rex Burkhead or if it's Sony Michel, because, I mean, Rex Burkhead's a very, very pasty guy, and he just stands out because of it. So there were so many times where they're 5 yards out, and I look at the screen, and it's freaking Rex Burkhead lined up in the backfield. That's the most frustrating thing. But go ahead.
For sure.
So it's just, I mean, I'll never have him on my fantasy team. He's just an annoying guy for owners and Patriots running backs.
Sure.
But in terms of what I view, when I saw that Cam Newton went there, I immediately was like, okay, Cam Newton played with McCaffrey. McCaffrey had huge seasons with him. James White's going to take advantage of that as a receiving back. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I'm willing to rely on James White being like my running back 2 even this year. I mean, maybe it's a flex. He could provide you guys with like some decent weeks out of the backfield. In terms of rushing yards, I'm like you, Jacob. I just kind of want to stay away from that backfield. I do kind of feel like Cam Newton being mobile will help the running backs because, you know, they're going to not only prevent the pass, not only prevent the run game, but you got to worry about Cam Newton scrambling too. So like that'll be interesting to see if they actually let him run with his injury that he just had and everything. But I kind of see Sony Michel maybe being a beneficiary from this. In terms of that, I just think that Sony Michel is a former first-round pick, and I don't think he's lived up to his expectations yet. Maybe a new quarterback, a mobile quarterback, somebody new handing him off the ball will be beneficial to him. I don't know if he's going to get more red zone targets because, like you said earlier, Nick, you're going to see Rex Burkhead in there. You're going to see all these. They line up with new guys in the backfield every week. Damian Harris is interesting to me because a lot of people are high on him. A lot of people think that he's going to be the guy that wins the job there. And if he does, and you get him at a late round pick, that's going to be a huge win for your fantasy team. If you could, even if you can start him in your flex where he's getting drafted right now, that'd be a huge deal for you guys. So what I'm thinking, I mean, I'm staying away from him all if possible. I think White has potential to be a flex option. I think Sony Michel, if he lives up to expectations, which he hasn't yet, maybe he could be a flex option. But best case scenario, I'm looking at any running back that takes advantage of Cam Newton there being a flex option. I'm not going to want any Patriots running back as my RB1 or RB2.
Definitely not.
Yeah, I as you know, Anthony, I have been a Sony Michel fan since he came into the league. He had some great weeks his rookie season, which made you want to roster him and, you know, take a chance because Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniel, I mean, they gave him the ball a lot. I mean, I'm looking at this past season, and these are frustrating numbers, but he was 9th in the red zone for touches inside the 20. He was 6th in the red zone inside the 10, and then 11th within the 5. And he didn't have a lot of touchdowns. So, you know, I think they want to give him the ball. I just don't think he's been productive in the red zone. Damian Harris is a very interesting guy, but I think it's like a push and pull sort of thing with him and Sony Michel. You know, you can get Damian Harris for almost nothing right now. So if he does take the job, your worry would be Sony Michel coming back and taking it right back. Sony Michel, your worry, like you said, you know, he had this foot injury. You know, he has some other ongoing injuries that they relate to Todd Gurley, you know, has with his knee and stuff. But that's another concern. I think James White's a great flex option because I think seeing, you know, the numbers with CMC 2018, 107, I think that was targets, and then 2017, 80. He was getting the ball thrown to him a lot out of the backfield. Obviously, it's a different offensive coordinator. It's a different team, but I could see Cam being in a brand new offense, being, you know, a little bit uncomfortable at times. Things might break down, throws the ball to James White. And I think James White, I don't think he's going to be the RB7 in PPR that he was in 2018. But with, you know, we play in PPR leagues, and that's all we play in. But I think in a PPR league, I'm perfectly fine taking him in a later round because I think he's slipped a bit more. And him being a flex option, I'll probably stay away from Sony just because I don't know the timeline. Damian Harris, like you said, might be a late round, end of the bench sort of guy. And if he takes off, that's great trade value.
Right.
Another thing I thought about too with Cam, I don't think Cam is going to be the rushing Cam that he has been in the past just because he's coming off these injuries. And may not be as elusive right away that he used to be, but I could see Cam being frustrating to fantasy owners in the way that Josh Allen was this past year. I think in the red zone, maybe it's not going to be Sony's pounding the rock. Maybe it's going to be, hey, it's a play action. It's it's Cam rushing in touchdowns here and there like he has in the past. He's been that guy in the past where he's in the red zone. He don't see his first guy. He's taken off. So I think that might take away from the only thing you were hoping for with Sony Michel, which is touchdowns, because he's not catching the ball. You look at the Patriots backfield. It's been the last 2 seasons. James White catches, Sony runs. So if you potentially lessen the ceiling for those end zone or red zone touchdowns, that's tough. That's tough for a guy depending on them. So I'm going to go with James White as the guy to own. I'm not paying a hefty price for him. I think he's a great flex option. I usually go running back heavy for my drafts in the leagues I'm in. But, that's my thoughts with New England. Same sort of thing, just kind of a lot of push and pull, a lot of chances you're taking right now. But could be beneficial, or you can kind of get burned on some of that stuff. So, yeah, that's my thoughts there. Anything else for New England, guys?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I want to piggyback off of you is that, like Cam Newton used to be his own goal line back in the day. I think since he only signed a 1-year contract, I don't think he would put his body in that type of danger because he wants to keep, he wants to keep on playing. But that is a great point you made, Nick, in that he could just be his, his own running back in the goal line. And it's like, well, is there any sort of fantasy value to have in New England apart from Edelman, apart from maybe Harry? These are a bunch of flyer picks. So that's why it's like, unless I'm getting Harris late, just because if you know me, I hoard running backs, like probably
Same.
Like my whole bench is almost all running backs just because of what you said, Nick. I like that trade value. If they blow up, I can trade, I can trade them. So Harris is definitely on that list of, hey, if this guy blows up, that's beautiful trade bait.
Yep, I agree with that. And I have some comments to read too. We have Detroit Beast. We have Chris. He said ain't done. I don't know if he's referring to Cam Newton not being done, maybe as far as a red zone rusher, or if it's Jacob's Twitter handle. And where's Jacob at? He's right there.
Detroit Beast.
Grad party with the plastic sheet in the back.
Oh my gosh, I know, man. He loves my background. Yeah, I'm actually in a basement of a house that I just bought recently, so this is not that furnished.
Congrats on that, though.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
I could be in the same boat as that because we moved into a house in February, and my basement is like I didn't want to go back to the gym because we have a newborn, so I want to stay away from any extra germs. And it's just like a prison workout in the basement. There's just random weights all over the place. Probably don't know what I'm doing, just picking them up and throwing them. But that's how my basement's going right now, so I can get to that.
I got to do.
Last one. He's in the Dexter kill room.
It definitely has that feel, man. He's on it, man.
Yeah, he's hot with these comments. He's hot.
Yes, he is.
He keeps firing more, but let's get to the next topic. All right. So, Landry. All right. I'm just gonna put this out there right now. And again, this came out August 2nd. I think I made this list. I probably reached out to you, Jacob, maybe Sunday or Saturday this past weekend about,
Oh, did he just log out?
Yep. So, I think he was referring to
all right,
Jarvis Landry. Oh, what's up, dude? Welcome.
You know what? I got I have a Mac. So sometimes if you swipe too much, I left. But Going back to that.
We're just gonna go on without you.
Hey, that's fine. I'm glad you guys had that. No, but this past weekend, I think I sent the list out of the topics, and this was before they listed Jarvis Landry. He will also be on the PUP list.
Right.
Could practice this month. He's projected to play week 1, but that was a little bit concerning with him being on the list now as well. I know he had the hip issue. I believe he had surgery on the hip. But yeah, so what I wrote down originally was, with a full season of Kareem Hunt and the addition of Austin Hooper, who has the higher pass target volume through the year? So I guess let's look at two different things here. Let's say this was with the intention that OBJ and Jarvis are good to go 100% week 1. Maybe we can go with both scenarios. Let's say Jarvis is not healthy. Who's the beneficiaries? And let's say both are healthy. Who could be the option 3 for the target share? Because I'll just read out some of my notes already. 44 targets in the 8 games for Kareem Hunt when he started playing with them. That was 5.5 a game. That would have been on pace for like 88 targets if it was a full season. And then we look at Austin Hooper's coming off a 97 target share over with the Falcons.
Right.
But 2019, the highest tight end targeted was Demetrius Harris with 27 targets. So a low target share for the tight end position. Obviously, there's new coaching staff there. We're going to see a little bit of a change of guard with certain things. But, yeah, you guys take the mic for this. I think Chrissy Sr., that's my wife. She said, have another beer, Nick, because she seen me leave the group here. But, yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers to that. Jacob, what do you think in both scenarios? Let's say Jarvis is healthy versus Jarvis is not healthy. And let's talk Kareem Hunt versus Austin Hooper for target share.
Yeah. So, I know that a lot of people are down on Hooper just because he's leaving Matt Ryan and Matt Ryan loved him. But I do, Hooper, I think is going to be a huge beneficiary to not only Landry's absence, but even when Landry comes back, I think like Hooper is just a magnet, like the ultimate safety valve. And I don't see Baker taking a step forward this season. He's
I agree.
Right. Yeah. Like he should be better this season just because he has better coaching, but I do not think he's a quarterback 1. I think he's going to rely heavily on Hooper and Chubb and Hunt. Like you said, I think that Hooper should get north of like 90 targets, whereas Hunt probably will get 50 to 60. And I know they were working out Hunt as a wideout over the offseason just because they do have Chubb, and they're like, well, we have this weapon in Hunt. Let's get him the ball as much as possible. So like you said, I do think that they figure out ways to get Hunt the ball, but I see Hooper being the main beneficiary here.
Okay. All right. Anthony, what do you think about target shares with the full season of Kareem Hunt, and now you add Austin Hooper to the core there at the Browns?
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that. I think Hooper is going to definitely be a beneficiary of that. I think Hooper on the Browns, at first I was like, you know what, that kills his value. He's got Odell there. He's got Landry there. But thinking about it more, Baker needs somebody who he could kind of just throw the ball to and rely on to get some extra yards and not make a crazy deep play or anything like that. So Landry's consistent. Odell, I'm expecting to do better this year. He definitely disappointed me last year as a fantasy owner of him. I actually think that I don't know, maybe in Njoku they run some 2 tight end sets and he gets a little bit involved in the offense more than people think he's going to be. I know he requested a trade and then he kind of retracted that and he said, I'm not going anywhere. So I don't know if they told him, hey, you're going to be in our plans. We're going to use 2 tight end sets or what's going on there. So it's going to be interesting to see. Hooper, I was down on, but I could see him being a reliable tight end this year. And Njoku, a lot of people gave up on him because of the Hooper signing, but who knows? Maybe they run 2 tight end sets. Maybe he's involved, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, if for whatever reason Odell goes down or Landry goes down, I think both those tight ends are going to be valuable for everybody going forward.
Yeah, I like the point you make about Baker needing maybe a safety blanket because he was bad last season, and every single time we talk about Baker, I'm going to say the same thing. Like, stop pointing at Freddie Kitchens for Baker being so bad last
Agreed.
season. Like, he literally was throwing interceptions as much as he was touchdowns. He was missing some of the best receivers in the game.
Right.
And having the weapons he had, I just don't give him any benefit of the doubt from this past year. So I just want to go off on that tangent because a lot of guys are overly hype, on him.
Yeah.
And needs to be said. But I do agree that Austin Hooper could be a great safety blanket. I mean, he was in. Matt Ryan didn't need a safety blanket, but he showed that, hey, Austin Hooper has great value and he is very reliable. I mean, if you feed him, he'll eat it all up. I don't think he's going to obviously have a 97 target share like he did on the Falcons. Maybe you can prove me wrong with that. But I do think that Kareem Hunt will be very involved. I think with Stefanski, he's going to get very creative with his backfield. I mean, we saw how great Dalvin Cook, did this past season with him as the offensive coordinator. I think Nick Chubb's going to be a beneficiary of him being the head coach. I think Kareem Hunt might just be a gadget player. He's going to rush the ball. He's going to line up, in the slot. He's going to catch out of the backfield. He's going to do a lot of things. I just don't know with that many pieces if we can count on Hunt being like the third most targeted guy in the team. They don't really have that third wide receiver. I mean, you go on Sleeper, I think like who is it? Rashard Higgins? Is that their
Hollywood Higgins? That's right.
Yeah, he was trending big time, and I just don't see it. Donovan Peoples-Jones he's going to be a special teams guy. They don't have that third wide receiver, and with OBJ and Jarvis, let's say they're both healthy, they're both good to go. Even OBJ was banged up, a bit last year. I think Austin Hooper, regardless, is going to be great on this team just because I think, again, cross the middle of the field, things break down for the Browns, easy target there. I think in the red zone, let's say they are successful with the run with a Stefanski who, was great with running backs in the past. If they do drive up the field, Austin Hooper is a great red zone target. He can give you some good touchdown share as well. So, I'm on board with Hooper, maybe not always giving you a 7-catch game, but I think that he can be a good third option in that offense.
Absolutely. I wouldn't sleep on Hooper. I mean, he's 6'4", and like we've been saying, like we've been preaching, Baker needs someone to throw it short. So I see a lot of targets, like 80 to 90. I don't know how you guys think of that, if that's like being like lofty. But I do see him just relying on Hooper more than ever this season.
Yeah, I can see, with Hunt coming in last year, and like I said, if he would have played a full season at that rate, he would have been like in the 80s or something like that, with targets. Do I think that would have been the case if they didn't have Demetrius Harris, as their starting tight end? Probably not. So I think that's a fair number. I think it's a fair number. Is it maybe a little optimistic? Maybe, but is it attainable? Absolutely. So, I'll go with I'll go with you on that. But yeah, let's move on here. T. Higgins drafted to the Cincinnati Bengals, and he's added to a core that has A.J. Green coming back. Tyler Boyd was their number one wide receiver this past season. John Ross, Auden Tate, some other names involved there. Just to go down the list here, Boyd obviously had 148 targets. He was their clear-cut go-to guy. Auden Tate, 80 targets for 40 catches. Alec Erickson, 78 targets for 43 catches. Ross, he missed a lot of games, but 56 targets for 28. The first two seasons, or not two, first 2 weeks of the season, he was very hot. Depending on your league, one of my leagues, he scored 36.8 and then 21.2. So, John Ross was a hot commodity for those 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then Eifert was the fourth option with, I believe, 63 targets. Hard to read my own handwriting sometimes. And 43 receptions. So you got different guys that were involved at different times this past season.
Right.
How do we see, or how do we view the receiving core for the Bengals? Obviously, let's say AJ Green is healthy, Tyler Boyd is healthy and good. If them two are the number one, number two wide receivers on the team, who's the third option? I mean, you got CJ Uzomah, who I think is going to be their starting tight end. Some people like Drew Sample, but I think he's more of a blocker. But yeah, with the addition to Higgins and all these other guys who stepped up, is there a great third option? Is it going to be like we talked about with the Raiders? Is there going to be guys that step up here, step up there, and then there's a change of guard? What do you guys think? We can start with you, Jacob.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a great third option. Like you said, like Boyd to me is the top dog there.
I agree.
Yeah, he's young. He is a target monster. I see Green as more of a luxury veteran here to teach all the kids here because they have a lot of young wideouts. Green will still get his. I see him as like a low-end wide receiver too, if he can stay healthy. But Boyd is the man here, and then it's Green. And then third, man, this was a really good question, Nick. Like I kept going back and forth. Like Auden Tate, he's 6'5". He's a monster.
Yeah.
But why would they draft T. Higgins so early if they didn't believe in Auden Tate? Even though Tate was like a deep league special last season, he showed up on a bunch of my streamer lists. Like towards the end of the season. But I mean, they got Higgins for a reason here. I think they're going to use Higgins. They're going to create some plays for him. They're going to get him involved as much as they can so that he and Burrow can form this chemistry. So once Green is gone, it's going to be the Boyd and Higgins show. So I do believe that they'll do everything in their power to get Higgins involved early and often. As far as Uzomah goes, he is interesting and he's definitely worth keeping an eye on. I'm not going to take him in drafts, except if it's like super deep, because it's possible that Joe Burrow is going to be over his head with all this COVID stuff, no off season with his players. Like it's possible that he's going to lean on that big frame. I don't know. Is it Uzomah or is it Uzomah? I don't.
You know what? I said Uzomah, you said Uzomah, and the next time I was going to talk, I was assuming that you knew how to say it, so I was going to go with your pronunciation.
I love it. I don't know. We'll just call him like
CJ. That's his first name. We'll go with CJ.
CJ. He is a big target. I can see Burrow leaning on him like a best friend here in the early part, so he could be a streaming option for sure. But as far as your original question goes, it is Boyd, Green, and Higgins. And Ross, if we are so lucky and blessed to have him healthy, yes, he will spout off these crazy best ball lines. Maybe 3 or 4 weeks of the season, he'll have these long plays, but I'm not going to rely on him whatsoever.
We got a couple comments here. Have Mike, Dr. Footballs, he's saying what's up to Chris. And Chris said, while Anthony looks to be in a bounce house.
Oh, you bouncing around?
Yeah, I guess he was.
Yeah, I
He's
can't
jumping,
get situated here.
Love it.
He wanted to one-up our background, so he brought the Chicago.
I see that.
Yeah.
Anthony, my battery's running low, so I had to make somebody else in.
Fine. What can you weigh in on this? What do you think about maybe a third option here for the Bengals?
I'm gonna keep this one pretty short. Definitely on the same page as you, Jacob. Boyd's their number one guy in my opinion. AJ Green's gonna be number 2. Number 3, it's hard for me to say. I don't think that they've given up fully on John Ross. I don't think they've given up fully on Auden Tate. But then they did draft Tay Higgins, so then you're just like, what's going on here? Because honestly, all those guys are capable. first couple weeks of the season, John Ross looked like he was an elite wide receiver, put up huge numbers. Then you got Auden Tate coming in, showing he's efficient, he could get numbers. People were even talking about maybe them playing Auden Tate at a tight end position because, like,
that was me. That was me. I told you that.
Okay,
that'd be
maybe
fire.
It was Nick that said. Maybe that was. Maybe
It was.
Nick.
I would. I put that idea into the world on Twitter. I'm pretty sure.
I love that. He's huge.
Some other guys just said to me, like, flat out, they're like, no, they're not doing that.
Yeah, but you never know. I mean, he's a big guy, so like my personal opinion is it's going to float around those guys, but I think the main reason that they drafted Higgins was because AJ Green's on a 1-year deal. They franchise tagged him. I think that they know AJ Green is not going to be a Bengal after next season. Higgins might have a learning year this year behind AJ Green, behind them other guys. Just because they know Green is leaving, they might have drafted for the future, in my opinion. I don't know if that's something. I mean, I'm personally not expecting Higgins to be a guy that I would ever play in 2020 on my fantasy team. He's definitely a guy I want on my dynasty team. I think that he's going to have a huge role in this offense in the future. I just don't know if it's going to be in 2020. So, in my personal opinion, I think that third wide receiver spot, it gets floated around. Whoever's going to be the hot hand. Maybe John Ross gets in on some plays where they need a big play. Maybe Auden Tate gets in on some short yardage plays. Maybe they put in Higgins because, as you said, they want him to build up a rapport with Burrow. So it's going to be all over the place, in my opinion. But I think that they definitely drafted Higgins knowing that AJ Green is not going to be there after this year, and he is going to have a huge part of that offense in the future.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what both of you guys said. For me, this will be the first time I think that three people all at once say Tyler Boyd over AJ Green. The comments, differently. Whenever you say something like that, though, that doesn't mean AJ Green is going to be bad or not rosterable. I think he's going to be just fine if he's healthy. I just like, that you lean on Tyler Boyd so much this past season. And the season before, he had a great target share. So I still think that's going to be the case. When you look at T. Higgins' draft profile, and, I wrote very generic things, 6'4", big dude, good speed, battles for balls, physical. Yeah. Like, when you say those things, you think of AJ Green. So I think drafting him, he's in the ideal spot behind the veteran that, he probably can play just like and wants to emulate. So I think that Auden Tate might be the odd man out unless he moves a tight end.
There you go.
He might be the odd man out because you got AJ Green, who is that profile, bigger guy. He's going to battle for balls, physical, kind of do it all sort of thing. And then you got T. Higgins, who is the younger version of that. And then Auden Tate's also a bigger guy, physical threat, could be good in the red zone, that sort of thing. So he might be the odd man out. I think if John Ross is healthy, I'm not a big John Ross guy, but I think the one thing we can say, though, is that he brings something different to the table with just being, an elite speed option, more of a downfield threat. Tyler Boyd, I think, can play in the slot. He can jump, elsewhere. AJ Green could be another guy all over the field sort of thing. And I think John Ross, the separation for him is the speed. I don't want John Ross, though, in any sort of league. I think for the first few weeks as they, get Higgins behind AJ Green at every single practice and here, and they're running routes together, I think it might be like you guys are saying, might be a different guy here, a different guy there. But I think it's Higgins maybe halfway through the season, through the end, he's the clear-cut number 3 option. Right. And if for some reason, and again, we want every player to be healthy, right? We want everybody to be successful. Because if we didn't, we'd be weird. We'd be weird people. Yeah. But if AJ Green, no, because you got guys on Twitter all the time saying this is injury prone, if this happens, this guy will be good. We don't want that. But if AJ Green, for, some reason is not healthy and he, has the same sort of years last year where you think he's coming back, or the year before that, whatever the case is, if he is out for any time, I think with him being the mentor, you just take Higgins and you put him into that role, and I think he's going to be great. So I like Higgins because of the talent. I think he was my wide receiver 4 before the draft. We'll call him CJ because we don't want to bash the anything after UZ. But there's so many other tight ends you can take a chance on. You can take a chance on, you know, Dawson Knox might be a better option. I mean, we don't know. There's so many tight ends that are going to be boom or bust or, you know, late round flyers. I'm not going with him this year. But yeah, give me T. Higgins as the third option here. I agree with you guys on that.
Right on.
All right. I know we're past the hour mark here, so we got 2 more things. One thing is this guy or that guy, so we don't have to spend a lot of time on it. It could be pretty brief. And then the last thing is just listing off 3 guys. So we'll run through these last 2 pointers here, guys.
Yeah.
Had to throw in something Chicago related. Me and Anthony are from the suburbs of Chicago, so we are Bears fans.
Nice.
You know,
Go Bears.
Not nice or not nice over the past year or so, but throw in a question here. So I am in belief that Nick Foles, Mitch Trubisky, one of them is going to start, but the other one is going to play this year.
Yeah.
That's my belief. Do I think that should happen? No, I don't actually. But as far as this positional battle goes, Nick Foles or Mitch Trubisky, who do you think plays more in 2020? And, you know, both of these guys, you look at draft boards, they're going like bottom of the barrel quarterbacks. Like they're going close to guys that are backups almost, but especially in super flex leagues. But are either one of these guys, if they do play a lot this season consistently, are either one of these guys a good fantasy option? So part A, who plays more games? And then part B, is one of them good for fantasy value? So Anthony, why don't you start with this one? And Detroit,
you already know my answer. You already know my answer on this, but Trubisky is going to be the Bears starting quarterback this year, and I can say that as a Bears fan, and I feel pretty confident about it actually.
Nice.
He's going to play more games, or is he going to start though? So that's going to be my question. Is he going to play more games?
He is going to start and play more games than Foles. Right. I truly believe that. I think that they traded up, and I don't like talking about it. They traded up to draft Trubisky over a lot of these other guys. I don't think that they just say, hey, you know what? We're done with you, and we signed Nick Foles to be your replacement. There was a lot of quarterbacks on the market this year, and they weren't making pushes for some of those elite names that were on the market. And I think that they signed Nick Foles kind of as like a, hey, Trubisky, like this is your last chance. Like if you what did he say?
He said, Mitch is good. You know, he's a good option on FanDuel. When Chicago plays Detroit, he shreds us.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, and you know what? I think Chicago's a little hard on Trubisky. I think I've seen Trubisky make some great throws. I mean, you look at his downfield completion percentage; it's not bad at all.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure he's accurate downfield. I want to say I haven't looked at the stats, but what I want to say is Trubisky's got legs. He's young. He's got potential. Mm-hmm. We saw what he was capable of in a few games. 2 years ago when we lost on the double doink field goal kick, the Bears had a good team. Who knows what they could have done if they won that game. The defense was there and everything. Last year, I don't think people are giving Nagy enough criticism as a coach for his play calling. I think his play calling was bad. As a Chicago Bears fan, we ran the ball at the wrong times. We threw the ball at the wrong times, and it just looked like we were all over the place. It didn't look like the defense wanted to play this year. I'm going Trubisky. I think they brought Foles in as a motivating factor for him. I'm not saying that that's a good thing because he should be motivated regardless, but I think you watch some videos of him in the offseason, you hear how he's talking. He said, this is my team, and I think he's going to make a statement this year, and it is going to be his team. Foles, another stupid signing for the Bears, in my opinion. It's kind of given me vibes of when we signed who's that? Mike Glennon. Completely unnecessary signing.
Never accomplished.
So signing Foles, I think, was a dumb move. I mean, if you're going to sign somebody to be our starting quarterback, why do you let Cam Newton sit there for so long? I don't know if Foles couldn't beat out Minshew and be a better quarterback than him in Jacksonville. I don't want him to be the Bears quarterback. So give Trubisky another chance. Let him be the starting quarterback, and he I think is going to prove a point this year.
I think Chris might be proving points here too, though. Has potential, not to be rude, but a few seasons in already at his draft spot. Should have reached his potential by now.
Hey, I am not in disagreement that we reached that at his draft spot. He should not have been the number 2 pick of the draft. But you got to also understand he only played one season in college as a starting quarterback. One season at North Carolina, who were not even in a good college conference. So like,
so Michael Jordan college isn't good enough, Anthony.
I'm sorry, North Carolina is not a great college school and for football, and he only had 1 year as a starting quarterback. He's raw still. I mean, I think he's got a lot to work on, but I think I'm not giving up on him just yet. I think he's still got potential to be a good quarterback. All
right, Jacob, are you with this guy over here or no?
So I actually am with you, Anthony. I do think that Trubisky keeps his starting job, but strictly due to his familiarity in the offense, I think that Foles is being put at a disadvantage with all this COVID stuff. So I mean, Trubisky, like you said, he has the legs to keep the Bears drives going. So for fantasy, I like him in certain spots. And like Chris was saying, like play him against the Lions, play him, because he can run all over everyone if he wants to. And, he has that rapport with A-Rob, even though it's not hard to have chemistry with that talent of a wideout there, but he has that connection with A-Rob. I believe that they're going to run a lot more with David Montgomery. So it's up to Trubisky just not to turn the ball over. So if he can do that, the Bears defense is still solid. They can actually make some noise this year. So if Trubisky can cut down on his turnovers, and he can run the ball, which is definitely his specialty there, as well as throw it to A-Rob, just huck it up to A-Rob, give him up. I don't know. He had like 500 targets last year, right? I mean, just keep on giving that man the ball. Let Montgomery run and let Tariq Cohen do his thing in open space. I mean, I am on Anthony's side in that I don't think that Foles is going to start out of the gate. Of course, if they start out, like 2-6 and stuff, they'll be like, okay, it's Foles' turn. But I just don't think that's going to happen. I think that Trubisky's going to keep him at 500 a little bit more. I know I'm talking amongst Bears diehard fans here, so I'm sure you have a lot more insight, a lot more fuel to this fire. But I'm putting all my money on Trubisky to play more than Foles. I think that he plays at least 10 games this season. All
right. Well, I got to be.
What do you think there, Nick?
Like the Shepherd take, I got to be the guy again to be against this.
Love it.
I will say in defense of Mitch Trubisky, because you can't. All right. I'm going to refer it to another sport. I'm a soccer coach, right?
All right.
When a goalie gets scored on, you don't always blame the goalkeeper. There's other factors for why the goalkeeper wasn't successful. Somebody didn't get in front of the shot, right? We lost the ball at a bad spot of the field. You go down the list, right? So with Mitch this past season, the play calling I thought was trying to be, I thought Nagy was trying to be a little too cute at times. I think that, he wanted Mitch to be a pocket passer. Mitch is a lot better on the run than he is sitting in the pocket every single play. When Mitch uses his legs, I think he creates more for that offense. And I think Nagy wanted him to, Peyton Manning sit in the pocket, not make the play. And that's just really not him as a quarterback. I thought the offensive line was bad. Guys like you get, we have household names like Long, and these other guys from the past or whatever season they're with who are just bad. They're just bad. The plays break down because of them, and you see it on the replays all the time. So I think the offensive line was bad. Looking at the play calling, looking at the demands they put on him, looking at the offensive line at times, I will say that, he had some things stacked against him, but at the same time, 63.2%, completion percentage, 18th in the league, 27th in touchdowns. in the league,
Hmm.
28th in QBR in the league. So there's a lot of these stats from this past season with Mitch as a full-time starter. Allen Robinson's a top 10 wide receiver.
Yep.
They had some other weapons, here and there that were standouts. Anthony Miller had, great games. Taylor
Love him this year.
Taylor Gabriel, before he got his concussion, had some good games. So with Mitch being bottom of the barrel in a season that he should have progressed, he regressed. He was bottom of the league in all these stats. And I think when you watch the live footage, because we're Chicago fans, and you see him overthrowing guys that are wide open,
Right.
him not being clutch in games he needs to be clutch, I'm over it. I'm over Mitch because I think he's had every opportunity to grow in the league, and he hasn't. So to point the finger, like I just did, at everything else but Mitch, I'm kind of getting sick of it. So I think that Mitch does start the season because of what you said. He's familiar with the system. They're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I literally think it's like he's having a bad half and it's done. I think it's going to be Nick Foles is coming in. Nick Foles was not great in Jacksonville, but he also was hurt. I'll tell you where Nick Foles was good, which we all know. Nick Foles, dog in the playoffs at the highest stage of football.
Yeah, he was.
Playing great. And you know what? I will trust all day Nick Foles to be a more accurate passer. I will trust all day for him to throw more touchdowns. I think Nick Foles is just a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky is when it comes to throwing the football. Does Mitch in fantasy bring you legs on the field? Absolutely. Would he get you some, big yard touchdowns out of nowhere? Sure. But I'm going to go with a guy who can throw the football better. I'm going to go with Nick Foles. We think back to the double doink game, and we all point the finger with that one at Cody Parkey. Cody Parkey missed the, crucial field goal.
Right.
You look at that game, maybe that was like a red flag right there because Nick Foles, second half of that game for the Eagles, on the best defense in the league, threw the ball all over them for 2 touchdowns and won them the game. I think Mitch's time is over for me. If they want to start him the year and he plays 2-3 games and they're losing games, that's it. But I just like with Baker, like how many chances are you going to give a guy to be good? And he's just not. And I think with Mitch being on what year is he in the league?
I think like 4th, maybe.
No.
I think it's the third. Okay, he was in the same draft as Patrick Mahomes, right? So I think it's his 4th. Yeah.
Yeah, because he got his 5th year declined.
Yeah, so with having that many years in the league and you're not getting better, like what reason do you have to give give him the benefit of the doubt? And I don't think that they signed Nick Foles to give him a push because you don't spend money to do things like that.
True.
You just don't. So yeah, I'm going with Nick Foles all day on this because he's a better thrower than Mitch Trubisky.
So why did we spend money on Mike Glennon?
I couldn't tell you that, but I will say Nick Foles. Yeah. Nick Foles has accomplished a lot more than Glennon has.
Absolutely.
All right, we got to get off this subject. I'm getting because I'm saying Anthony's shaking his head over here. At least my guy Mike says I'm with you, Nick. Week 3 Trubisky done. Thank you, Mike.
Dang.
All right. Last thing we'll say because we are well above the hour mark here.
Yeah.
Give me each of you guys finish with 3 players that you are all in on for fantasy because you have them in 3 or more leagues. So with each of these 3 guys, max 1 sentence why you're all in. So you got to have them in at least 3 leagues. If you only play in 1 league, then I guess you just got to go with that 1 league. But yeah, three players that are in 3+ leagues, 1 sentence why. Anthony, you can go with this.
Oh man, I gotta think about that one.
Unless you want to have Jacob.
I'll bail you out, Anthony.
Yeah. All right, yeah, go ahead.
So first, I'm gonna go with Joe Mixon. Like we were talking a lot about the Bengals. He's 24 years old. He's proven that he can be successful even in the worst of times on a bad offense. They should only be better, and they should lean on him. So I'm gonna go with Joe Mixon. He is a solid pick in the back end of your draft. Next is Cortland Sutton. Broncos, baby.
Oh, I had it ready.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was
Anthony
ready.
just tweeted him today, so this will be good.
All right. Yeah.
Today,
Sutton showed. Love it, man. Sutton showed in short time that he can be successful with like any quarterback who is who is under center, like whether that was Joe Flacco, Brandon Allen, and then Drew Lock, and he showed some great chemistry with Drew Lock. So I expect him to take an even bigger step forward this year. And then lastly, I'm a huge believer in a bounce back from Juju Smith-Schuster. I think, he was going in the back end of the first round last year, and now he's being taken in the 4th to 5th round. When Big Ben is back, he looks great as far as reports go. I know there's a lot of concern with his elbow, but as long as he's healthy, Juju's going to eat, and he should definitely produce at worst second-round value for you.
All right, that's a solid list right there. I like the Juju note at the end.
Yes,
a lot of people have given up on him and what value presents to dynasty leagues too. He's young, young guy. Anthony, you got your 3?
Yeah, so definitely gotta go all in on him is my boy Miles Sanders.
All right.
I'm going Miles Sanders here. I think he's going to have a huge year. Everything I've been reading, everything I've been seeing shows that they're not going to be running a committee to what everybody thinks, and I hope that's the case, because if that is the case, I think he's going to have huge upside. Second guy, I'm going to go with Daniel Jones. I've got Daniel Jones in a few leagues. I think he's going to have a huge year. I could definitely see him being a top 10 quarterback this year, taking huge steps forwards. He just needs to not fumble the ball 18 times or whatever he did last season. That's a huge difference. Point.
Right.
If he does that, that's going to be huge. Last guy, I'm between two guys. I'm definitely going Juju. I'm super high on Juju. I want to trade for him in every league. I don't have him. I want to draft him in every league I can. I think he's going to have a massive season. Bad season last year, but he had me throwing him the ball, to be honest. So
Devlin Hodges.
People hate on him for that, but 2 years ago he had like 1,400 yards. That's a massive season. He's a freak athlete. He's young. He's talented. I think he's going to have a huge year, and definitely going to go with Juju as my number 3 guy there.
Love it.
All right, I'm going to go fast here just for the sake of time. Jacob sniped me in our mock draft of this guy, but Austin Eckler.
Your boy.
Yeah, I know. I got sniped. You picked the 9 spot, and I was at the 10, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, in the mock draft. Yeah, Austin Eckler, number 2 in all receiving categories behind McCaffrey this past season. He was RB4 this past year. I don't see any reason for a major regression because I think he's going to be the focal point of that offense, regardless of who the quarterback is. So I know he's slipping down the rankings list, but I am all in on Austin Eckler being very, very good in 2020. Robert Woods is going to be another guy that I have in most leagues.
Love it.
Fantasy football, I love volume. I know the touchdowns need to be improved for him to take a large step in the fantasy world, but volume is everything, and I think he gets a massive target share. 9 out of 16 games with 9+ targets. You had games where he was getting like 14 targets. Like, give me that all day for a guy that does it consistently. So Robert Woods for that, and then I'll go with a rookie. Rookie fever going on, of course, but DeAndre Swift was my number 1 running back before the draft. Everybody thinks that, or not everybody, but a lot of people think that he has a bad landing spot. I disagree. I think he's going to catch the ball a lot. I think he's going to run the ball a lot. Even with carry on there, I think he's going to be very successful, and I think he's still the most talented rookie in this class. So give me him all day, especially in dynasty leagues. But yeah, that's it for me. Why don't we so Anthony, tell us where to find you, just because this will be on a podcast and they can't see the screen.
Yep, at Anthony P2W for everybody that can't see here. Give me a follow. You can find me. I'm attached to the P2W page bio as a contributor. So if you want to check me out, I'd appreciate any follow from any of you guys. And
Jacob, where can we find you?
Yes, sir. You can find me on Twitter at Ain't Done Yet, and Dunne is spelled Dunne. I'd love for you guys to give me a follow. I'll follow back. You can ask me whatever questions you have. You can also find me on Primetime Sports Talk, giving my Broncos analysis and my fantasy football as well. So, yeah, guys, hit me up.
All right, yeah. Thanks for coming on, guys. Anthony, you had short notice. Jacob, it's been a time coming
Yeah.
for you to come on the podcast. So I'm happy you were on here. I love your content. The minute you push out something, I'm ready to push it right back out for you.
Nice.
Great content all the time, and just overall great person. So I appreciate you coming on, man.
Thank
Nick,
you, brother. This is a great show. I love you guys, and thank you so much for having me on.
absolutely. Again, Nick here from P2W Fantasy, and for you guys watching live, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys, and